This is a manager who has a very good feeling on his team and knows how to get them to perform. And again, even though Palmeiras maybe is not playing at the highest level that they're capable of, they do just enough to win in a very professional way. This is a team that has experience in these type of competitions.
They were a deserved winner. There's no doubt about it. It wasn't until the goal that we really even saw Botafogo open it up offensively at all.
Yeah, it was interesting. The first 45 minutes was I would say not the best level that we've seen in this Club World Cup, but it was kind of what you would expect between two rivals from the same domestic league in Brazil, playing a very physical brand of soccer. It was what we're used to seeing in South American football when there's trophies on the line in a cup-style tournament, in a World Cup-style tournament, obviously like this one. Expected to be a little bit cagey. It was that in the first half. But then you did see the difference in quality in that second half. Palmeiras really knowing what type of football they're playing, being a little bit conservative as far as defending and taking their opportunities on the counterattack, and that's what you saw throughout the game until they finally did get their opportunity and put one away. But I think it's what we expected, a cagey, hard-fought, physical match between these two teams. But I do think that the better team in Palmeiras is moving on.
Yeah, there's no question. This was the team that deserved to be moving on and guaranteed coming in to have a Brazilian team in the round of 16. That's pretty special with what we have seen so far in this tournament. Abel Ferreira has been one of the best South American managers for the last few seasons. A couple of Copa Libertadores as well as Brasileiros. For him, it just seems like the substitution pattern may be a little bit surprising. We see Esteval only in the 64th minute coming out. He didn't last even into extra time. What did you make of the substitutions and the changes that he made?
I mean, he clearly has, Abel Ferreira, a really good feeling about his team, an understanding of what he needs to do and what moves he needs to make. And he's not scared to make them. And not all managers can say that. When you have two Copa Libertadores titles and two Brasileirão titles to your name, you have the confidence to make that move. Esteval came to this tournament as the superstar. He has been impactful in the way they played, but really not to the level that maybe we have expected. Not goals, not really getting onto the score sheet or the assist sheet. So it's not exactly what you would expect to see from him. But we see Abel Ferreira has options at his disposal. He also sat down Facundo Torres, another player who's been a goal scorer for them. He's leading them in the Brazilian domestic league in scoring. So it is he is not scared to make the moves. He did make those moves today, and it ends up paying off. Super Sub gets the goal once again, and they're able to move on. This is a manager who has a very good feeling on his team and knows how to get them to perform. And again, even though Palmeiras maybe is not playing at the highest level that they're capable of, they do just enough to win in a very professional way. This is a team that has experience in these type of competitions.
Well, let's talk about Palmeiras so far. I mean, the Group A winner, scoreless draw against Porto, 2-0 win against Al Ahly, and then the 2-2 draw against Inter Miami. This is a team that can reach a different level, right? I mean, what are we seeing so far? Where are they in terms of their capabilities now moving into the quarterfinals?
I think that, like I said, it's been a professional tournament for them. They've only conceded 2 goals, and those 2 goals came against Inter Miami. Not exactly the team that we expected to get the goals against them, but they have been a defensive masterclass performance in this tournament so far from Palmeiras, knowing how to play in these tournaments, how to manage their team, how to not leave themselves open at the back. And you look at the lineup here. I mean, that back four has been good. Fuchs, you saw what Fuchs did at the very end. That's kind of the epitome of what Palmeiras has been defensively in this tournament so far, laying it all on the line to make sure that they don't give the opportunity to the opposing team to get onto the score sheet. And that's what they've done. And even in the game where they did concede goals, they're able to come back and get the 2 goals to make it a level, to make it a draw. So this is a team, like I said, a little bit of inconsistency as far as the final third is concerned. You'd like to see a bit better if you're a Palmeiras fan, but still, you're confident because they're defending so well, they're controlling the games through the midfield, and really have done a good job of dictating the pace of the games. And that's what happened today. That second half was dominated by Palmeiras. Probably should have gotten a goal in the second half. Didn't have to go to extra time. But they're confident that they're still going to be able to get it done because they're defending so well.
Yeah, and they could hit a different level if Esteval, who's going to Chelsea after this, starts to score, right? I mean, in the knockout stages, goal scorers are going to be huge, and Esteval is one of those. Flipping the script to Botafogo. They're the Brazilian champions right now. 8th in the Brasileirão. I mean, they're having a bit of a disappointing season. We know that this is a side that going forward is going to be always one of the best in Brazil. Is it reinvestment time? Where do they go from here?
It's tough. I mean, they did lose some players after their incredible win in Copa Libertadores. So it is kind of a little bit of a transitional period for Botafogo. I still think it's a positive tournament for them because of that transitional period where you do have some players that are coming in and out. They do have to kind of reinvest in the squad there. Maybe use this, especially with the winnings that they still get, even though they're eliminated from this tournament, still in a decent amount of coin to be able to maybe reinvest in the squad. This is a Botafogo team that I think will be around for some time. Obviously, American ownership with John Textor. There are some issues with that group and some of the clubs that he owns as well. But I do think that this is an important club to him in that Brazilian league that is, I wouldn't say wide open, but there are a lot of teams that can compete. And I do believe that they'll still find a way to reinvest, find a way to still be competitive, even in this transitional period. I don't think that this is by any means the end of Botafogo. I think that this is a team that's going to have some sustainable level of success as they continue to move forward. Decent tournament, probably, of course, want to do better, but they'll be happy and move on from here if they still have something to build on to continue what's been a really successful run over the last couple of seasons.
And getting to the round of 16 is going to help John Textor's sale of Crystal Palace, of his 43% to Woody Johnson is going to help. There's going to be money to put back. With Palmeiras taking down Botafogo, is Sao Paulo just reverberating right now with energy? That must have been an incredible thing to watch being down there.
Before we got on air, you guys said that I didn't have to be objective for my journalistic integrity. So I'm going to go out and say that not so much. It's not so hot down here with the Palmeiras victory. But in all seriousness, obviously the Palmeiras fans are absolutely thrilled. And they are actually the butt of the joke quite frequently down here as being one of the bigger clubs in the nation to never have won a Club World Cup. So they'll be delighted with this victory, especially since it comes over a Botafogo team with whom their rivalry has been growing in the last couple of years. 2 seasons ago, they had a comeback win against Botafogo. They were 3-0 down at Nilson Santos, came back and won 4-3, and that was the beginning of Botafogo's capitulation of that league title, which Palmeiras went on to win. And then they were knocked out by Botafogo last year, Palmeiras. And so this rivalry has been huge. And so this victory for Palmeiras has been really flying out.
That's why I love having you on, Mbizo, because you kind of let us know exactly how passionate the Brazilian, the South American fans are taking this tournament. And I think that's kind of what some of the casual fans have seen. Wow, they really care. This is very important to the South American clubs, and it really has been beautiful to see. So that's why I love having you on.
What we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at Mike Lahoud and Nico Cantor's best 11 from the group stage. So to kick us off, we've got Nico, and we're going to just go back to front.
Yeah, Al Hilal has Yassine Bono in net. For me, the best goalkeeper of the group stage because he was essential in having the biggest team in Saudi Arabia progress into the next round. He stopped the penalty kick against Real Madrid, was man of the match in their second game against Salzburg. Didn't have too much to do yesterday against Pachuca, but he's my number 1 goalkeeper. Then if we can go to the back line, I chose a 3-man back line. I chose Barbosa from Botafogo. He's been critical, sensational, really. What a defender that Botafogo has. Bastoni, I probably would have had Bastoni on the left-hand side, right? Swap those center backs. And then Gray. Auckland City's center back that scored the header against Boca Juniors in one of the more heroic moments of the group stage. I understand Auckland is out and blah, 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 what have you, but I think it's a story that in world football we all fell in love with. It came at the behest of the team that I support, but I'm going to put my emotions aside. That was epic. He scored against Boca. So hats off to you. He's got a story to tell. That's my only symbolic insertion into my 11. The rest are all founded on performances. All right, let's head into the midfield. I struggled to choose 3, so I ended up having 4 guys in this midfield. Let's go from left to right. Vitinha, coming off of a grueling season, winning the Champions League, going straight to the UEFA Nations League Final Four, putting on a performance there, and then with PSG, yes, they lost to Botafogo, but he has been critical, has been playing a lot for PSG, and really instrumental in their success all around. They're through to the next stage in large parts because of Vitinha. Enzo Fernandez, same for Chelsea, with the 2 assists in that one game. He's been really running the show, and we've seen, especially in a rotated side, he's still a constant. Jorginho for Flamengo, he pulls the strings. He's been so good, helping provide that upset, and Gregory has been awesome for Botafogo, the former Inter Miami man. The way that he puts out fires, that he covers so much ground in the midfield, I love it. Honestly, he got a yellow card in the 95th minute in their last game, which keeps him out of the next game for Botafogo, which is a massive miss. And that boneheaded move probably should have had me take him out of the 11. But if I'm looking at performances alone, save for the last minute of the group stage, he 100% has to be on this list. 3 guys. Up top, we go with Igor Jesus. He scored the goal against PSG, the one that provided Botafogo with all this hope, the Copa Libertadores champion, beating the reigning Champions League champion Gonzalo Garcia for Real Madrid. When Mbappe has been injured or sick, whatever it is, he has shown up, and in style. And Michael Olise, who terrorized everybody in the group stage that Bayern Munich was in, he looks good, he looks fresh, and I'm excited to see what's to come for him in this Club World Cup.
All right, I dig it. We're going to save Tony's opinions for the end, because Mike, you're going to take us through yours. What formation did you go with?
I went 3-5-2, so I love the back 3, and I'm going to go Wake minds think alike, Nico. For everything you said, and I'm going to add, in that Pachuca game, he did come up with 2 big saves on Telemann Rondon when it was 1-0.
Yeah.
If it's 1-1, maybe some nerves, but they still get through. Now to the back 3. You got to go with Bastoni because he's the most complete defender in the entire competition right now, and he's becoming one of the best defenders in the world. Nicolas Otamendi, for me, in that Bayern match, Benfica Bayern, he's a beast. Already has a goal in this against Boca, set pieces. He's a warrior, he's a leader. He will be a big reason why Benfica will beat Chelsea in the very next round.
Hot take Lahoud.
Yeah, I got plenty of them. I got my hot take cannon. Who am I shooting at? Hakimi. I can't leave Hakimi. Dreamy Hakimi. I can't leave him out of any team. He's the best fullback in this competition. And when he scores goals, you're in. Now to the midfield. This is where I got a little bit creative because, as we see in the midfield, I'm just going to get ahead of it. Back to the future. Jorginho's in my midfield. Jorginho makes the move, the assist, but he's that metronome factor for Flamengo and gets their attack going. That's not Jude Bellingham. It's Joe Bellingham, man. Joe Bellingham. The new move, already making an impact.
Come on, you guys knew
Tony
that.
Meola, side of relief. Pedro Neto, for me, I had question marks about him because there's a lot of competition in that wing position. And with Jamie Gittens inching closer to move to Chelsea, Pedro Neto is a certified starter moving forward with his goals. Fede Valverde looks reborn. Fede Valverde looks like the midfield general he is for Real Madrid. In the 3-5-2 I saw last night, he has to be in the team. And Jeremy Doku, end product Jeremy Doku, getting goals, looking like he has an idea of what to do in the final third. And the big reason why Pep Guardiola and Manchester City look sharp. Now in the final third, this is where my hot take cannon's on all over the place because Gonzalo Garcia, yes, he has to be in there. The finish that he had in the very last match, it reminded me of Raul, a young Raul coming in and just having the composure. But the FIFA Club World Cup for Inter, it's not about Lauti, it's about Pio Esposito. The big reason, we were saying that Pio Esposito, he's going to go out on loan. His performances have given him a lifeline that he is going to be at Inter for this season. The club wants to keep him because he has given them the confidence that he can be a squad player, he can be an impact player for Inter this season.
Look at this team. You look at Gonzalo Garcia, you look at Pio Esposito on your 11. I really consider putting Esposito in there. It's almost disheartening that there's a strong possibility that they might not be part of the squad's August forward.
So Garcia's what, 21, I think?
20 or 21, so yeah, something like
and
that.
Esposito's a teenager still, right? 19 years old. You guys picked two.
Crazy.
It's incredible. I think there's 3 overlaps here, right? The goalkeeper, Bastoni, and Garcia, right?
Jorginho.
Oh, Jorginho. Oh, yeah. Okay, so 4 overlaps. That's pretty interesting. You guys had 2 different formations. Gray, of course, that's the Otamendi, I think, has been outstanding. I think he's been outstanding since he's gone to Benfica. Yeah, really interesting. I mean, you can pick so many players, but I love the fact that these young guys are making their way. You actually wanted to choose some young guys. And then how about Gregory you have in there, right? That they couldn't find a place really in the end in Inter Miami when Busquets gets there, like to use him, and all of a sudden he's here and breaking up plays every game.
Couldn't Inter Miami use Gregory?
Right now, 100%.
You think back to the last couple minutes, right? They get that win.
Yeah, against Palmeiras.
They definitely get that win if he's in there.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Garcia and Esposito. You talk about how young they are. They could, not really be featured next season, whether it's like a loan or something. Who do you think is most likely to play a role next season for their respective clubs?
Esposito probably, but he's making a name for himself. But I think the club fears at 19 years old that he doesn't get enough minutes because they saw his growth at Spezia. He would have been at Spezia. We talked about it right during the week had they gotten promoted on the last day of the season, but they didn't. So a couple players are going to leave to play in Serie A. If he goes on loan, it will be somewhere in Serie A. They're trying to figure that whole thing out right now. But score goals and maybe you stay.
And Gonzalo Garcia has been smashing it for Real Madrid Castilla. He's ready for the next step. It's very clear, and he has the quality to play at the professional top flight, clearly showing it for Real Madrid. But there's so much depth in those forward positions that when push comes to shove and the season gets started and those matches are grueling, I don't know if he's going to carve out a position, a consistent
even with all those competitions,
position.
Even still,
You got Rodrigo, you got Masantuono, you got Endrick, you got Arda Güler, you've got all.
The list goes on and on. But as Nigel Real Coker always says, if you're good enough, you're old enough. We love you, Nige. Got a whole book of Nigelisms that we could go through.
Pedro, Chelsea, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Chelsea have agreed a deal to sign Xiao Pedro from Brighton. The fee is more than £50 million and the player will sign a 7-year contract. There is a club-to-club agreement. There's also an agreement on personal terms between Chelsea and the player. I think there are good relations between Chelsea and Brighton. Of course, Chelsea have signed quite a few players from Brighton in the past. And this is the big news. Xiao Pedro will join Chelsea here in the US to play in the Club World Cup. Of course, as long as there are no problems with his medical and no problems are anticipated. At the moment, there is a mid-tournament registration window open in the Club World Cup here. That window is open until Thursday. So as long as Xiao Pedro signs the paperwork, completes his medical, flies out to the US, and he's registered by Chelsea with FIFA, he will be able to play in this tournament. And of course, Chelsea's next game is on Friday, the quarterfinals in Philadelphia. They're playing Palmeiras, so potentially Xiao Pedro, I'm not sure how fit he is. Probably he's not going to be match fit enough to play in that game, but he'll certainly be joining the Chelsea squad. The reason Chelsea have gone for him is they believe he's a versatile forward who can play as a number 9. Of course, they've signed Liam Delap as a number 9 as well. I'm being told that he'll add to their squad depth alongside Liam Delap and Nicholas Jackson as well. Of course, Chelsea have got Christopher Nkunku up front, who scored last night for them. Question marks about whether he may leave this summer. Question marks as well about whether Jackson may leave this summer as well. But Chelsea have been so busy in the transfer window this summer. They signed Liam Delap. We told you that yesterday they agreed a deal with Borussia Dortmund for Jamie Gittens, and today they've agreed a deal with Brighton for Xiao Pedro. One thing to tell you though is Jamie Gittens won't be able to play for Chelsea in this Club World Cup, even though this mid-tournament registration period is open. He has played already in this tournament for Borussia Dortmund. You can't play for 2 clubs in this Club World Cup.
Okay, Carve Solokol with that breaking news live from Orlando. Thank you very much indeed. And so, yeah, it sounds like it's all going to happen very quickly for him, Mark, for Xiao Pedro. If all goes to plan, he could be playing in a few days at this Club World Cup. And, of course, if Chelsea were to go on and win it and he contributes, that more than covers the cost of £50+ million for him.
Yeah, like Carve said, it'd be interesting to see how fit Xiao Pedro is. Generally, footballers these days take a couple of weeks off after the end of the season, but then they start doing work anyway. So they never really lose their fitness and they never really lose being in touch with how fit you need to be as a top-level athlete. So I'd imagine he'd be pretty much good to go. Certainly you could see a few cameos off the bench, maybe not starting games, but essentially once again you look at this and you think that could potentially be a really good piece of business for Chelsea. They're getting a Brazil international for £50+ million. Brighton will look at it and say, actually we've done really well once again with our sales technique because we bought a player in for around £30 million with some add-ons. We've sold him for sort of 50 to 60 million, so therefore we've virtually doubled our money. Watford fans will be interested as well because they're due a sell-on from the profits as well, so you'd imagine Watford are probably going to bank around £4 or £5 million as well, which would come in handy for their recruitment drive over the course of this summer. So on the surface, it looks like everyone is getting exactly what they want. So you can't see really any losers in this transfer setup. I think the interesting thing now, where does he fit in? And we spoke about it earlier at Chelsea. How does he play alongside someone like Cole Palmer, who likes to operate in a similar area? And of course, how do Brighton replace him? And what do they do in the transfer market? Because he's a big loss, big figure, a big personality, someone hugely passionate, maybe a little bit too passionate at times on the training pitch. But absolutely, I'm intrigued as to how this one moves, because he's a player that on his day could be incredibly lethal.
And if they're spending that much money on him, over £50 million to bring another forward into the squad, you were looking at the options before, weren't you, James? But now this has moved on a bit. I mean, does it almost feel inevitable that an Nkunku or a Jackson are going to have to leave the club?
I think those are the two players that are most under threat. I think Christopher Nkunku is probably looking for a departure. I don't think he was happy with the minutes he received last season. I think there was a huge amount of excitement when he signed for the club, but he suffered that injury early on into his time at Chelsea and hasn't quite recovered that, hasn't quite got the trust of the manager. And when Cole Palmer is performing at the level he is, Enzo Maresca said it's simply impossible to get the likes of Nkunku and João Felix into that Chelsea side. It's worth bearing in mind it's another deal between Chelsea and Brighton. Marco Correa, Moises Caicedo, Robert Sanchez, Graham Potter, all his backroom staff as well. More departures from Brighton to Chelsea. Great business once again from Brighton, but Chelsea will see this as a great business themselves. If the fee is around £60 million, they're signing a player who's not even turned 24 yet. He's got 5 years experience in English football. He's a proven goal scorer. He creates goals, he scores goals. The question is, where does he fit in with Liam Delap there, Cole Palmer there, especially Jamie Gittens on the left-hand side. You've got Neto, Madueke. There's plenty of options there for Chelsea. They're back in the Champions League now. They'll need all these options, but I think it's a great bit of business. It's a really good deal. I think it's going to be really testing for him not being the main man at Chelsea because there are so many big-name players there. Fascinating to see him and Cole Palmer in the same 11 if Enzo Maresca can make that work.
Shall we? Yeah, they've had a summer so far, haven't they? The fans are still riding the high of being promoted from the Championship last season. They broke their transfer record a few weeks ago and they've now broken it again. They are certainly coming to the transfer table. There is a deal agreed with Strasbourg for Habib Diara. It's 27 million with 3 million in add-ons for the 21-year-old Senegal international. You might be looking at that thinking, I recognise that moment there. He scored against England at the City Ground just a couple of weeks ago on international duty. We just understand the medical has now got to be completed before officially announcing next week. He is essentially the replacement for Joe Bellingham, who's gone to the Bundesliga with Borussia Dortmund. So, Sunderland getting busy in the window. Habib Diara from Strasbourg is going to be one of their key signings over the course of this summer and takes their spending to £50 million already at this early stage.
Talking of key signings, what a signing Brighton's Xiao Pedro could potentially be for Newcastle. Are they making any progress?
Not at the moment. Not as much progress as Eddie Howe would like. We know that there is a lot of interest in Xiao Pedro. He's the type of player that would get into most Premier League sides. He's got so much Brazilian quality. He's only 23 years old and he's been pretty damn good since he arrived down the south coast for Brighton since his move from Watford. And now you get the feeling that with all of this noise and interest, particularly from Newcastle and clubs like Chelsea, this will be the summer he departs Brighton and Hove Albion. Newcastle have had an offer rejected, which we understand to be in excess of £50 million. There has been long-term interest in the player from Eddie Howe. Tried to sign him when he was at Watford, but couldn't get a deal over the line. He ended up joining Brighton and Hove Albion, but that interest has remained. We also know that there are a number of other players on the radar for Newcastle. They really are looking to strengthen ahead of another season in the Champions League. But there's no question about what Xiao Pedro would bring. He's got so much quality. He's now got 2 years' experience in the Premier League at a really good club. He's played European football, of course, Europa League football under Roberto De Zerbi. So he has so much more than potentially what he had when Eddie Howe looked at him. Maybe that's reflective upon the price as well. We understand Brighton are looking for in excess of £60 million to get this deal over the line. Let's take a look at some of Xiao Pedro's stats then last season in the Premier League whilst at Brighton and Hove Albion, because he was one of the standout players for Fabian Herzl. You can see obviously goals, double figures there, which was the best at Brighton. The assists, equal first. I think the other things that stand out there, chances created and touches in and around the box. Now, you know Eddie Howe, Rob. He likes versatility in the players he signs, and that's certainly something that Xiao Pedro would bring. Someone that can play on the left and the right, play as a 10, play as a false 9 as well. So he does bring those options, and you can see from those numbers that he was one of the standout performers for Brighton last season, hence why there is this interest from the likes of Chelsea and Newcastle. But as of yet, no deal done.
The other thing I get the sense that he quite likes with players like Bruno and Joe Linton is someone with a bit of bite and a bit of edge, which I think that you would say that Joao Pedro has. He plays games right on the limit at times.
And he trains on the limit as well. There was that disciplinary issue at the end of the season where there was an alleged confrontation with another player at Brighton and Hove Albion in training. And that is absolutely the way Eddie Howe likes players to be. He wants players to give everything for the badge. He wants players to be on the front foot. He wants players to press high, work hard. It's very much a team game. And you get the feeling that Xiao Pedro would bring all of those team ethics that are so important. But it's all about energy, it's all about work rate, it's all about giving everything you possibly can and understanding the philosophy that Newcastle play with. So that would be a key thing for any player that goes into Newcastle this summer. It wouldn't just be about, have they done well? Are their numbers stacking up? Are they an Eddie Howe player? And that's where a lot of players, you think, actually, they're really good, but they're not an Eddie Howe player, so they'd never be a target for Newcastle.
You said there that maybe Brighton, or Newcastle rather, weren't too close with Joao Pedro. Are Manchester United any closer in terms of Brentford's Brian Mbeumo?
Well, we told you last night, just after the transfer show came off air, that Brian Mbeumo's second bid from Manchester United had been rejected. That is essentially the case. However, the offer at £62.5 million was close to what Brentford were looking for. So I get the feeling now the talks are continuing, but it's just a case of restructuring the finances and then they'll have a let's go, deal on, this is going to happen. So, yeah, whilst officially that second offer has been rejected, we understand it's just a case of manipulating the figures. We know that Brian Mbeumo wants Manchester United. He's made that very clear. There were other sides like Newcastle interested in taking him. However, he has made it clear to his agent and to those clubs that were at the table a couple of weeks ago, no, my focus is on Manchester United. That's where I see my future. That's where I want to play. I want to go to the theatre of dreams. That's the next chapter in my life and my football. So, yeah, you get the feeling this will happen. This week could be a key week. It's just a case of manipulating those figures so that everyone is happy.
Let's just finish with Paul Pogba back in the game.
Yeah, back in the game. Medical completed at Monaco. He's going to sign a 2-year contract. Still 32 years old, so still probably got a few years left in him. We know he's a World Cup winner, and we know that he will have next year's World Cup very much on his mind, hence why he's committed to a team in France. His last competitive game was for Juventus in September 2023. Came on as a sub against Empoli, and of course someone the Premier League fans will know played for Manchester United. Got to be honest, whenever I watched him play, he was always sensational. He always scored goals, he always was box to box, he was a great player to watch. Perhaps not as consistent as Manchester United fans would have hoped for, but no question, on his day, still got so much quality. And good to see him back in the game as well.
Mark, thank you very much indeed.
Excited to join us. Welcome, Mark McAdam. Let's start outside the Premier League for a change, shall we? Because this is quite an exciting one. A World Cup winner making his comeback. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, we've been talking about it throughout the course of today on Sky Sports News. We've had confirmation in the last hour of what we've been telling you as well. Paul Pogba is back in football at Monaco. It's been confirmed by the football club. Renaissance and rebirth. He signed a 2-year contract in Ligue 1, and as you can see from their announcement on social media,
that's
Mount
dramatic,
Rushmore, isn't it? And he's got a pickaxe as well. Did you know that Paul Pogba's nickname was the Pickaxe?
Since when?
Well, according to Monaco, it's the Pickaxe.
Okay.
Don't mess with the Pickaxe. And as you can see from this rather funny, engaging video, there with his Monaco kit on, he looks absolutely incredible. Great to see him back in the game. And of course, this is the first time he'll play competitive football since September 2023. That was for Juventus. He came off the bench and played against Empoli. So someone there who is back in the game at 32 years old, maybe with an eye on the future and what's happening next year. Let's take a look at some of his statistics, some of the numbers, some of the things that he's done throughout the course of his career. As you can see, obviously, for France, 11 goals, 8 assists. You mentioned it there, World Cup win in 2018, the standout achievement in his career. In the first spell at Juventus, where they won 4 Serie A titles, scored 34 goals, 32 assists as well. Successful at Manchester United, some might say, maybe not laden with the trophies that you'd have expected, but a League Cup and a Europa League winner whilst at Old Trafford. And then the second spell at Juventus didn't work out. Injury problems galore. Obviously, he didn't play as well a great deal. So, yeah, that wasn't a successful time. But certainly when you look at the career titles, the things he's won, the things he's achieved, certainly got a lot to offer the game. Certainly a top-class player on his day as well. Maybe with an eye on next year?
Yeah, what's happening next year, I wonder?
Maybe the World Cup?
Ooh, don't say it yet. Don't say it yet. I'm sure he's got that in the back of his mind. So this is obviously Paul Pogba and what he has achieved. But let's look forward, because what kind of player do you think Monaco are getting? Are they getting a pickaxe? Are they getting a battering ram? What are they getting?
They're getting someone that has huge quality, huge potential. You can see him there when he was at Manchester United, 137 appearances in the Premier League, 29 goals, 38 assists. He's physically imposing. He's box to box. On his day, there's no question, when he performed at his peak, he was one of the best midfielders in the world, hence why Manchester United paid such a huge sum of money to get him. It was close to £100 million when they initially brought him in from Juventus. That was off the back of him winning 4 league titles there. It was seen as a huge deal and an exciting project and an exciting piece of business. It didn't really work out that way, but there's no question he's still got ability. I think the most important thing to remember for Paul Pogba is you've got a hungry player that's there to prove people wrong. He wants to show he's still got quality at the highest level. He's 32 years old, so he's still not that old. He's still got a few years left in the tank. Maybe not quite got the stamina that he had before, but there's no question with his know-how, experience and knowledge of the game, he could be a real asset for Monaco. Fascinating to see how this one plays out. No question he'll have the World Cup on the horizon. It'd be so interesting to see if he can make that France squad and what type of a player he can be and how he can influence the game.
He have agreed a deal with Borussia Dortmund to sign Jamie Gittens. Chelsea had been in talks for quite a while. He's a player they've been monitoring very, very closely. We know that they will sign at least one wide player this summer, and Jamie Gittens was their priority target. Now, earlier this month, we had that mini transfer window. During that mini transfer window, Chelsea did make a bid worth around £42 million for Gittens. That bid was rejected by Borussia Dortmund, and the two clubs weren't able to agree a deal before the first deadline day of the summer on June the 10th. After that deadline, both clubs, of course, flew to the US here to play in the Club World Cup, and talks have continued over the past couple of weeks. The really important thing about this deal is that Jamie Gittens wants to move to Chelsea. He has set his heart on moving to Chelsea, and he made that clear to Borussia Dortmund. I think there are good relations between Chelsea and Dortmund. That's why a deal has been agreed. We told you yesterday that a deal was very, very close. There were reports that maybe it wouldn't happen quickly because Chelsea were playing Benfica this weekend and Dortmund are playing Monterrey in their round of 16 game in Atlanta on Tuesday. But the information we had is that it was getting very, very close, even though both teams have got big games coming up in this tournament. In the background, they were working on a deal for Gittens, and our understanding now is that a deal has been agreed. I've just been trying to get some confirmation on the size of the deal and also the contract length. I don't have that yet, but of course, you would assume that it would be around the £50 million mark at least. We know Chelsea's bid of £42 million was turned down. And considering Jamie Gittens' age and profile and the way Chelsea do business, I'm pretty sure he will have signed or agreed to sign a long-term deal. I'll tell you more when that's confirmed, but I would imagine it will be a contract that will be 5, 6, 7 years, something like that.
Regarding Cristiano Ronaldo, let's cross live to our chief correspondent, Carve, who's in Orlando at the Club World Cup for us. Carve, it's as you predicted, of course. He is staying at Al Nassr. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, we told you yesterday that he was very close to agreeing to sign a new contract with Al Nassr, and Al Nassr have just announced that that contract has been signed. They've released some pictures of Cristiano Ronaldo signing his contract, and there's also a video of him walking along the beach, filmed from behind him, and then he turns to the camera and he says Al Nassr forever. Now, this new contract that he signed is a 2-year contract which will keep him at Al Nassr until 2027, when he will be 42 years old. We're being told that he feels at home in Saudi Arabia. He wants to stay there for as long as possible. Of course, he joined Al Nassr in January 2023 after he left Manchester United in quite acrimonious circumstances, and his Al Nassr contract was due to run out on Monday. Now, it's been left until the last minute. I think these kind of negotiations always go to the wire, because I imagine both sides were trying to get the best deal possible. Regarding his wages, it is a closely guarded secret in Saudi Arabia how much he earns, but he is generally regarded as being the best paid player in the world. And when I've spoken to people in Saudi Arabia and put it to them that he's on wages of around 200 million euros a year, which is 170 million pounds a year, which is around 3.2 million pounds a week, I have not been steered away from those figures. I think he really is the best paid player in the world. I think the only other player who comes close to him is probably Lionel Messi. He's got this contract with Inter Miami, and he earns obviously a lot on top of that because of the commercial deals he has with the MLS and Inter Miami. But just getting back to Cristiano Ronaldo, I think the reason he's decided to stay in Saudi Arabia, obviously the financial aspect of it, but also the sporting aspect, because if you remember earlier this month, he was in very good form for Portugal as they won the Nations League in Munich, and he's got his eyes on the prize of the World Cup next year here in the US, and he still feels that by playing for Al Nassr next season in the Saudi Pro League, he will be in good enough condition to play for Portugal in the World Cup. One other thing to tell you about as well is I'm also being told that he likes life in Saudi Arabia so much that he's also considering making sports investments in the kingdom.
Goodness me. Well, like you say, and I can think of 170 million reasons as to why you perhaps would stay at Al Nassr. I mean, look, just explain to those people who are just joining us why he isn't playing where you are right now in the Club World Cup then.
Well, Al Nassr didn't qualify for the Club World Cup, but obviously there was this special transfer window at the start of this month where he could have moved to a club who are playing in the Club World Cup. There were quite a few clubs who were interested in signing him, but at the end of the day, he was not able to agree a deal to play for one of those clubs. I think Cristiano Ronaldo, being Cristiano Ronaldo, he would only want to sign for a club who had a good chance of winning this competition. I think it would have been a dream come true for FIFA if he had decided to sign for a club who were playing here, because they've got Lionel Messi, they wanted Cristiano Ronaldo as well. One club he could have moved to, of course, would have been Al Hilal, who were Al Nassr's rivals in Riyadh. We were covering one of their games a few days ago, and speaking to the people at Al Hilal, they were a little bit bemused about how we in the Western media, as they called us, had got away with this story of the possibility of him moving to Al Hilal, because they said Al Nassr is a very, very proud club and they would not want their star player moving to their big rivals. One other thing to tell you about Cristiano Ronaldo as well is, at the moment he's on 938 career goals and he wants to get to 1,000. I wouldn't bet against him getting another 62 goals for Al Nassr and Portugal over the next 2 years. We've just had a quote from him as well about his new contract. He says, "A new passion begins. The same passion, the same dream. Let's make history together. Al Nassr forever."
It's remarkable, really, to think that he will, be 42 by the end of that contract. You know, you wonder whether they could have just given him a year's deal, but they've actually given him 2 years. I wonder whether he wants to go on to playing till he's 45.
Well, I think whenever he's been asked about retirement, he has dismissed it out of hand. He says, that's a long way away. I still feel really good. I still feel my form is great. If you look at the pictures of him, he's been very active on social media recently, posting shirtless pictures of him in the gym with his son. He still looks in great shape. Obviously, everyone knows that he's very proud of his physique and he looks after himself. But I just get the feeling that Cristiano Ronaldo loves football so much that he's going to carry on and on and on. And obviously, Al Nassr love him, Saudi Arabia loves him as well, and he enjoys living there. And there's been talk even that he may invest in a Saudi Pro League club. So I think even after 2027, Cristiano Ronaldo's association with Saudi Arabia is going to go on, especially because they're hosting the World Cup in 2034.
And that's exactly where he wants to be, isn't it? He wants to be playing for Portugal at that club, at that World Cup, I should say. Carve, it's been brilliant to talk to you, as always. Thank you for joining us to give us more on the Cristiano Ronaldo story. Signing of left-back Milos Kirk from Bournemouth in a deal worth £40 million. The 21-year-old has agreed a 5-year deal with Arne Slot's Premier League champions. It'll keep him at Anfield until 2030. Speaking to the club's media team, the Hungarian international says he's excited to be joining such a big club and can't wait to get started with his new teammates.
I'm really happy. It's a real honor for me, privilege to come to play for one of the biggest clubs in the world, biggest club in England. And I'm just really, really happy and excited.
You spoke about watching bits of Liverpool history on YouTube. They've made history again this year and in a great position to build on that now, and the future looks so bright.
Yeah, definitely. This is the club that wants to win, needs to win. So of course it's a big thing. Last season completely, I think, dominated everyone. And of course, big congratulations. But yeah, always, you know, you need to want more. And definitely from last season, I think this season club's gonna build on it and only get a lot better.
For that to be a reality, though,
yeah.
After speculation and talks going on, how does that feel to you as a player?
You know, it's you can't have much peace because you know it's Liverpool, and you want to be a Liverpool player, and I think it's should be every kid's dream. And yeah, I was just waiting nearly every day, and what is happening, and wanted my dad to tell me and this. And a couple of days ago, a week ago, he told me it's falling good and that we are flying this week here. So really, really happy.
Arsenal, shall we? Because we've sat in front of Mikel Arteta on numerous Fridays asking whether or not they're going to sign a striker. And here we are again, asking whether or not they're going to sign a striker. Liverpool, we hear from the papers in the Sun today, have joined the race to sign one of their targets, Victor Gyökeres. What do you think Arsenal's thinking are here, and are they any closer to getting that striker in?
Yeah, I think it's still been quite quiet on that front, just because there have been other priorities this week. Of course, I'm sure we'll talk about Brentford's Norgard soon, but also when you look at, I guess, the internal stuff they've been wanting to do ahead of next season, that's probably taken a front seat. With Gyökeres, I don't think that's moved on as much as it seemed from the reports in Portugal last week. So that's one where I think you're still waiting for, I guess, the dominoes to fall properly, and then everything kind of explodes into action. So yeah, I think with if Liverpool are to get involved, then that would obviously have to shift Arsenal into gear on that one.
What's also really interesting, and you mentioned Norgard there, is they're closing in on that signing effectively to replace Thomas Partey. What are your feelings on that? Because Partey's probably had one of the best years of his career at Arsenal, hasn't he? It's not really a like for like. It's not going to make the fans particularly happy, is it?
No, I've seen a lot of debate on social media over the last 24 hours. A lot of conflicting views. I think for me personally, I think it's just one that you need a competent midfielder in that position. Of course, he's coming in more as a backup, I'd say, than someone who you're expecting to start regularly, because you have Martin Zubimendi coming for Real Sociedad. So for that role, I think you see the Jorginho signing as probably something similar, where he joined at the same age, 31 years old, and played a decent role in midfield for Arsenal. Didn't play loads of games, but was competent and helped when needed. So for that reason, I think it's a fine signing. It's not one that's gonna have fans kind of screaming with joy, but I think if and when injuries kick in, you'd rather have that player there than not have them.
Breaking news for you now, and Ruud van Nistelrooy is leaving Leicester City. The decision is a mutual agreement between manager and club after they reached a settlement on compensation. Van Nistelrooy, of course, was appointed as Steve Cooper's replacement back in November of 2024 on a 2.5-year deal. It followed a promising spell as interim head coach at Manchester United, where he got 3 wins and a draw from 4 games in charge. So, Ruud van Nistelrooy to leave Leicester. His final game as Leicester boss was obviously at the end of this season. He oversaw his first win as a Premier League manager in early December. He beat West Ham 3-1, followed it up with a draw at Brighton. Terrible run of form, though, followed. Just 1 victory in the next 17 games. That included a run of 8 losses in a row at home without scoring. So the writing was on the wall for a while, but Leicester were finally relegated to the Championship on the 20th of April with 5 games left to go. That's after they lost to league leaders Liverpool. Leicester, though, weren't able to sack Van Nistelrooy earlier on because it would have affected their latest PSR accounts, which actually refresh on July the 1st. So here's a reminder of the Premier League table. Leicester finished 18th. They still had 5 games to go when they were relegated. Only Ipswich and Southampton had worse records last season. And Leicester are yet to confirm a short list of possible replacements, but they have been considering various names for some time, including Sheffield Wednesday manager Danny Roll and Sean Dyche, who's not worked since he was sacked by Everton in January. Well, Van Nistelrooy's final game as Leicester boss was against Bournemouth on May the 25th, and this was what he had to say on his future after that match.
I'm focused in the process with the staff and with the players, and I can't thank them enough for their support and that we stuck together through this very, very difficult season, together with the group of players and the staff members within the building at Seagrave. It was great to go through the end of this season that we stuck together, and that's why it is not easy to prepare the games with them.
start thinking about next season and planning for next season now?
I can't because I still have to wait for at least to have a conversation on a future together or not. So before that, you cannot start planning.
Well, this is Van Nistelrooy's Premier League record at Leicester. He won 5 out of 27 matches, losing 18 of those games, so just the 18.5% win rate. And these are the first 6 championship fixtures for whoever it is that replaces Van Nistelrooy. They will start the season with a home match against Sheffield Wednesday on August the 10th. Their first away game is at Preston on August the 16th. And in the last few moments, we've had a statement from Leicester, the club saying this. Ruud has overseen a challenging period for the club. From his appointment in November of 2024, he approached the role with professionalism, integrity and a clear commitment to our aims, including through the integration of several promising players from the club's academy into our first team environment. Ruud moves on with the respect and thanks of everyone at the football club for his dedication and hard work, and with our very best wishes for the future. Well, Van Nistelrooy himself commented as follows: I'd like to personally thank the Leicester City players, coaches, academy and all the staff I've worked with for their professionalism and dedication during my time at the club, and to thank the fans for their support, and take this opportunity to wish the club well for the future. Well, the club statement concludes that preparation for the EFL Championship season will continue with the planned start of pre-season on Monday the 30th of June. First team coaching staff will oversee the delivery of those plans until a new manager is appointed, and they say that no further comment will be made until this process has been completed. So Ruud van Nistelrooy has left Leicester after the club and the manager have agreed a compensation deal. No news on who will replace him, but his time in charge of the Foxes has come to an end.
Transfer news. We've got Michael Bridge with us now. Right, let's talk Man United. Are they edging closer to getting their second signing of the summer then?
Well, there was a development last night, Hayley. They've made an improved offer of more than £60 million for Brian Mbeumo. We know they had a bid rejected a few weeks ago, around £45 million plus £10 million in add-ons. We will wait to see if this latest offer will be enough to prize a player away who was absolutely phenomenal under Thomas Frank last season. But Thomas Frank maybe being the key name there. He's no longer going to be the Brentford head coach, of course. He is at Tottenham. Tottenham showed interest, but it does look like if Brentford accept that offer, he will be heading to Old Trafford. And what a season he had last season. We talk about the lack of goal threat from Manchester United under Ruben Amorim last season. He really wants to add to that attacking front line. Of course, they've got Matheus Cunha coming in, but 20 goals last season is ever so impressive. Expected assists first as well. He got 7 assists in the end last season, so a phenomenal season for him for Brentford. Can he match those numbers at Manchester United? If he joins the club, we'll wait and see.
Yeah, because we did think maybe he could be linking up with, of course, Thomas Frank. He could have been going to Tottenham. They wanted him, but who can they maybe turn their attention to?
Well, there's certainly some real talent still Tottenham are looking at. He was one of a number of players Spurs have discussed ahead of the new season. Anton Semenyo is one name we know as a player they like. Ebi Eze from Crystal Palace is a player they also like as well, and with reason. He's been absolutely phenomenal for Crystal Palace over the last few seasons. Starring role in the FA Cup final. Look, it's not going to be easy to prize away Eze from Crystal Palace. They've just won the FA Cup. It looks like they should be in Europe now under Oliver Glasner. So we'll wait and see. Is it around 65, 70 million to prize him away? But nothing developing massively yet at the moment, but we know it's a player of interest to them.
OK, good to know. Right, can you bring us up to date with what's happening with Jordan Henderson and his future?
Yeah, really interesting one, this. We brought you this a few hours ago here on Sky Sports News. Now, one of our producers doing the perfect shot here, England training, because he needs a great season to secure his place in Thomas Tuchel's World Cup squad. Maybe that was the biggest surprise when Thomas Tuchel picked his first squad, because you know, he's around 35 years of age now. He was in and out of the Ajax side. Now, what we do know is that he has a clause at Ajax that he's allowed to leave the club on a free transfer, and Marseille and Roberto De Zerbi are keen to take him. So that's one certainly to keep an eye on.
OK, that is. Kepa Arrizabalaga switching Chelsea for another London club then. What's happening with Kepa? Where's he going to go?
Yeah, it looks like Kepa is on his way to Arsenal. These two London clubs do a lot of business over the years. And it looks like Kepa, who's going to fight for the #1 place for David Raya if that move does go ahead. Arsenal had Neto on loan from Bournemouth last season. He'll be back at Bournemouth. And Kepa, of course, who spent last season on loan at Bournemouth, looks like he's heading to Arsenal from Chelsea with this £5 million release clause. We understand he's in London this week to finalise that transfer.
Oh, OK. Thank you very much. I tell you what, just staying here at the moment and staying with, in fact, Chelsea, because they are looking at signing several players this summer, with the club hoping to add a winger and a centre-back ahead of the new Premier League season. Our chief correspondent, Carve Solical, has the latest on their potential business.
Chelsea are pressing ahead with a move to sign Jamie Gittens from Borussia Dortmund. Of course, earlier this month, they made a £42 million offer for him, but that bid was rejected by Dortmund, and the two clubs couldn't agree a deal before the first window of the summer closed on the 10th of June. Now, as we reported at the time, Gittens is still a priority target for Chelsea. Both clubs, Chelsea and Dortmund, are out here in the US playing in the Club World Cup, and talks are continuing and ongoing. The player himself is still keen to move to Chelsea, and he was actually an unused substitute in Dortmund's game against Mamelodi Sundowns in Cincinnati on Saturday. Now, Chelsea will sign at least one winger this summer. Garnacho at Manchester United still remains a target as well. They considered making a move for him in January, but a deal couldn't be agreed. He's now been told that he can leave Manchester United, and he was not in the squad for their final Premier League game of the season against Aston Villa. And a couple of days ago, he posted a picture of himself on social media wearing an Aston Villa shirt with Marcus Rashford's name on the back. Meanwhile, Christopher Nkunku, the Chelsea forward, was a United target in January. There were talks held between intermediaries. He will definitely, I think, leave Chelsea this summer, and he hasn't played for them in this Club World Cup. He almost moved to Bayern Munich in January. A deal couldn't be agreed. Of course, Chelsea signed him 2 years ago for £52 million from RB Leipzig. He still has 4 years left on his contract. So could we potentially see a swap deal involving Garnacho and Nkunku? One moving to Chelsea, one moving to United. I'm not so sure, because in the era of PSR and FFP, swap deals really don't make much financial sense.
So the window is really starting to hot up. We've got it all covered. A reminder, the transfer show returns on Friday, 7 p.m, right here on Sky Sports News.
Have already made some big moves in the transfer window, completing the signings of Florian Wirtz and Jeremy Frimpong, but they aren't done yet. Mark McAdam, as you can see, is here to go through the latest transfer news, and seems like they might be busy again, Liverpool.
Liverpool getting close to a third signing of the summer, and we're, still in June.
Yeah.
Shows that very targeted business. They've obviously had a clear plan that they want to execute for this summer's window. The Premier League champions getting stronger and close to a third player. That player is going to be Bournemouth defender Milos Kirk. We understand the deal is all agreed. It's going to be a £40 million deal, and it's one of those rare situations where it's actually £40 million with no add-ons. The player is currently in Serbia, but heading back to the UK today. He will start that Liverpool medical tomorrow. So you'd imagine tomorrow evening, maybe it will roll into Wednesday morning. Liverpool will get a brand new left-back. It raises issues and concerns. What they're going to do with Robertson. There's interest from Atletico Madrid there. Yeah. They've also got Tsimikas. You'd probably think that one of those two players would be departing Anfield over the course of this summer, because they're not going to want three left-backs in that team. But Milos Kirk is someone that joined Bournemouth a couple of summers ago for £15 million, so that represents a really good profit for them. Someone who started 38 games in the Premier League out of 38, so he's robust, he's got that experience, he's got a wonderful left foot when he gets that singing, and he can put in some quality into that box. So he could be a really strong addition as someone that's got a couple of years of Premier League experience. So just to confirm the news there, he's flying into the UK today, medical at some stage tomorrow. Maybe it will be completed tomorrow, but possibly Wednesday. A couple of other players to keep an eye on at Liverpool. Jarell Quansah, we know that there's an agreement in place with Bayer Leverkusen, which is around 40 million euros, 34 million pounds. He's currently on international duty with the England under-21s, who play on Wednesday night in the semi-final. We're not expecting any movement between now and then. Of course, it depends on how England get on as to how quickly that deal will accelerate. And another player that you mentioned going into the break, someone on Liverpool's radar, but just someone on the radar at the moment, the Crystal Palace defender Mark Guéhi, 24 years old. He goes into his final year at the moment. We understand it would have to be a really sizable offer for Steve Parish to say, OK, we'll let go of our captain. There are some reports that suggest he may leave on a free next summer. Right. One to keep an eye on.
They turned down a big offer from Newcastle.
Big offers from Newcastle. I think it totalled around 65 to 70 million pound in the end. The Crystal Palace chairman rejected that last summer. He stayed at Palace, got an FA Cup winners' medal, someone that was hugely important to the team. And like we say, he's on the radar for Liverpool, but there's been no formal contact. There's no progression on the deal. It's just someone they're aware of, and if they should go into the market to look for a centre-back, we know they were interested in Dean Howson before he went to Real Madrid, so it's definitely a position that they're looking at. Yeah. But other than interest, nothing more formal at this stage.
Just on that, though, they've got Konate, they've got Virgil van Dijk, who are pretty much guaranteed they're starting two centre-backs. What does that mean possibly for Konate then?
Well, Konate goes into the last year of his current Liverpool contract, so they've either got a situation where they try and offer him an extension and get him to stay at Anfield for a longer period of time, or they say we're going to lose him on a free next summer, or they could say, right, we need to cash in. Let's get some money now and see if we can reinvest that into the team and find someone else. So it's definitely an area that Liverpool fans should be keeping an eye on, and we know that Arne Slot and Richard Hughes are looking to strengthen at centre-back, so they're just to keep an eye on it, see how things develop, but there are players that they've got in mind. They do have a list of targets, and it could be a little bit of an interesting jigsaw puzzle at the back for Liverpool.
Yeah, we will keep you updated if anything happens on that front. I want to talk about Marcus Rashford, though, now. How about his future? Because he's spoken publicly about his desire to play with Lamine Yamal and with Barcelona. Seems as though they're looking at other options in that position, though.
Yeah, unfortunately for Marcus Rashford, he's not at the top of Barcelona's list with regards to potential incomings this summer in terms of wingers. He's on a list, but he's not near the top of the list. One player that we know that Barcelona are getting close to is the 19-year-old right winger from FC Copenhagen. He's only a youngster. Rooney Bagaji is his name. It's a £2 million deal, so it's not an expensive deal. However, whilst he is a right winger and they are looking to strengthen in that position, he's not their only target. Their number one target this summer is Nico Williams, someone who they've been keeping an eye on for some time. He's an outstanding player. He's got this release clause, which is around £55 million. However, the wages that come with a player of his calibre are not cheap, and we know that Barcelona financially don't have huge amounts of cash to spend, and they have to be very creative with the players they sign. Sometimes they can bring players in, but they can't always register them with La Liga. So they have to have La Liga on side to get deals over the line, and that means they have to be clever. It also means they can't spend huge amounts of money on players, hence why they may be interested in Marcus Rashford, but his wages would be a problem, and the fact that he's still got 3 years left on his current deal. But he was speaking over the course of the weekend with that Spanish YouTuber ex-buyer saying, I'd love to play with Lamine Yamal. He's a great player. Who wouldn't love to play with him? One to keep an eye on, that's for sure. One other little thing we'll just point out as well, we like a little bit of social media activity, and Alejandro Garnacho just put something on his Instagram, and I don't know, what does this mean? He's wearing his Marcus Rashford Aston Villa shirt. My brother. Love heart. What's he saying there?
Well, I mean, he's saying that he doesn't mind annoying the fans because they're not going to enjoy that, are they?
Well, a current Manchester United player wearing an Aston Villa top. It's all fun and games.
Well, I don't think everyone will see it that way, sadly. It gives us something to talk about. How about Arsenal? We mentioned Nico Williams before, and Arsenal were linked with him for quite a while. That seems to have gone cold. It seems to be Barcelona possibly for him.
It's just an expensive deal to make happen. That's the problem.
Yeah.
The release clause isn't that high, but when you look at the overall package with the agency fee, the wages, the bonuses, the signing-on fee, it's an expensive one.
Yeah. There's another player, though, that Arsenal have been linked with for even longer. Now, tell me Arsenal are close to completing their first signing of the summer?
They are getting close. Martin Zubimendi nearly joined Liverpool last summer because they activated the release clause, but the player opted to stay in Spain for another season. He's in London at the moment, just finalising that deal, speaking to Arsenal, going through all the final details of that contract. We understand it's a £51 million release clause, which Arsenal have activated. It's only a matter of time now. I know there's been some rumours on social media about a hijack, about other clubs. Not going to happen. The agreement is in place. He's going to be joining Arsenal, and Mikel Arteta will get his first signing of the summer.
Okay.
Calm down. Relax.
No, I'm fine. According to Sky Germany, goalkeeper Max Weiss will undergo a medical with Burnley today. What does that mean for James Trafford's future? The much sought after, apparently, James Trafford.
Well, the important thing to remember about Weiss is he's been playing in Bundesliga 2. He kept 8 clean sheets last season in the second tier of the German footballing pyramid. So he's not even been playing in the Bundesliga. He's 21 years old. He's a young goalkeeper. Weiss very much one for the future as opposed to someone who could play immediately. But the fact that Burnley are strengthening in that position, whilst there is interest in their number one, James Trafford, would maybe indicate that there are teams that are interested in making a deal happen over the course of this summer. We know there are Premier League sides. We know there are sides across Europe that like James Trafford. He had a phenomenal season in the Championship, was absolutely outstanding at times. I lost track of the clean sheets he was keeping, some of those big saves. So therefore, you'd imagine it could be an area where Burnley need to strengthen. But I wouldn't automatically put 2 and 2 together and say he's the replacement for James Trafford just yet.
Okay, great stuff as ever. Thank you, Mark.
Breaking news is Cristiano Ronaldo news and where he'll be playing his football next. Let's go live to Orlando. Our chief correspondent, Carve Solokol, has got it. Carve, what is it?
Yes, Cristiano Ronaldo is close to agreeing to extend his contract at Al Nassr. He feels at home in Saudi Arabia and he wants to extend his stay. Of course, he moved to Al Nassr in January 2023 and he's out of contract at the end of this month. I think recent performances and goals when he's been playing for Portugal have convinced him that the best place for him to carry on playing his football is in Saudi Arabia, in the Saudi Pro League for Al Nassr. And that's because next summer the World Cup is being held in the US and Cristiano Ronaldo is fully focused on playing for Portugal in that tournament, even though he'll be 41. And I think he proved a lot of doubters wrong with his performances and his goals as Portugal won the Nations League earlier this month in Munich when they beat Spain in the final. He feels that the standard of football in Saudi Arabia is improving all the time, and he's even considering making some sports investments in the kingdom. Now, of course, I'm here at the Club World Cup and there was lots of talk over the past few months about the possibility of Cristiano Ronaldo playing in this tournament because, of course, his great rival Lionel Messi is playing here for Inter Miami. Al Nassr have not qualified for the Club World Cup, but there was that early transfer window when Ronaldo could have moved to another club. He had offers, but he decided not to accept any of them, and I think he wanted to stay loyal to Al Nassr, and he will be extending his contract. One other thing he's very, very focused on is ending his career. Not that he's contemplating retirement yet, but he wants to end his career having scored 1,000 goals. He's currently on 938, and who would bet against him scoring another 62 for club and country before he retires?
Breaking news is Cristiano Ronaldo news and where he'll be playing his football next. Let's go live to Orlando. Our chief correspondent, Carve Solokol, has got it. Carve, what is it?
Yes, Cristiano Ronaldo is close to agreeing to extend his contract at Al Nassr. He feels at home in Saudi Arabia and he wants to extend his stay. Of course, he moved to Al Nassr in January 2023 and he's out of contract at the end of this month. I think recent performances and goals when he's been playing for Portugal have convinced him that the best place for him to carry on playing his football is in Saudi Arabia, in the Saudi Pro League for Al Nassr. And that's because next summer the World Cup is being held in the US, and Cristiano Ronaldo is fully focused on playing for Portugal in that tournament, even though he'll be 41. And I think he proved a lot of doubters wrong with his performances and his goals as Portugal won the Nations League earlier this month in Munich when they beat Spain in the final. He feels that the standard of football in Saudi Arabia is improving all the time, and he's even considering making some sports investments in the kingdom. Now, of course, I'm here at the Club World Cup, and there was lots of talk over the past few months about the possibility of Cristiano Ronaldo playing in this tournament because, of course, his great rival Lionel Messi is playing here for Inter Miami. Al Nassr have not qualified for the Club World Cup, but there was that early transfer window when Ronaldo could have moved to another club. He had offers, but he decided not to accept any of them, and I think he wanted to stay loyal to Al Nassr, and he will be extending his contract. One other thing he's very, very focused on is ending his career. Not that he's contemplating retirement yet, but he wants to end his career having scored 1,000 goals. He's currently on 938, and who would bet against him scoring another 62 for club and country before he retires?